Hello, everyone. Diana Rankin here, along with little Piper. You see her moving around there. She just got under my chair. Here she was over in her bed. Hello, Sheila. She says, "Hello, Diana and Piper. I hope you're doing well. Warm greetings from a cold Amsterdam." Well, it's cold here too, so we'll just bundle up. I don't think you can see outside there because it's just all white where I am. And it's beautiful. We had just a couple of inches, but it's absolutely gorgeous. But yes, it's cold. And so Sheila will just bundle up in our warm sweaters here. Well, today is something we haven't done before. And what that is, um, we're going to repeat something we said about this time last year. But I want to give you the backstory of why we're repeating the information. And I'll give that to you in a minute, but I do want to remind you that we will get our weekly message from Phillip, and that is just from our Oracle book, The Master's Book of Answers by Phillip. And yes, you can, it's on my website, you can, which is just my name. All that's right below here. But it's just an oracle book, so every page has a wisdom on it. And it always surprises me how the wisdoms in the book match what we've been talking about. And I do that in my own personal life as well, and it always matches. So it's always interesting. Okay, here's the backstory. Last year on 12/8, so approximately this week, we had several questions about the holidays. And so this week, I didn't have a question for many of you to answer. And so I started thinking about, okay, what's a good question to ask, to answer on the video for Friday? And I couldn't come up with anything, which, yeah, that's unusual because I have lots of questions, but I couldn't come up with anything. And I kept thinking about it. So one day I just happened to open my computer, and I went to Facebook. I'm on a social media there, and on the Facebook page it had memories. And so the first memory that came up was the video on December 8th, 2023. And I had to laugh about that. I thought, well, maybe I should look at that information to see if there was a question in that. But I put it away and forgot about it and kept trying to think, what's the question for this week? Well, guess what? I finally got the synchronicity of why that popped up. And sometimes that just takes a while, because if we're not listening to our own intuition or paying attention or believing in it, the synchronicity we ignore, we miss it. But the synchronicity of that popping up. So then I went and I listened to the video, and I went back in the old journal and pulled out what we had written. And I said, you know what? Most of my viewers aren't going to go back and look at last year, an old video from last year. Most of my viewers aren't going to remember necessarily what was said, or if they did hear it, do remember, have gone back and listened or whatever, they're ready to hear it again. And so am I. So that's the backstory of why you're getting a repeat of what I said on an original video last year at this time. And Sheila says, my question is, are the drones over New Jersey drones or UFOs? Sheila, let me hold that question, because honestly, Diana, have no idea. And I can ask Phillip, but that is something I go into deeper. So we'll put that in as a question. And Sharon says, hi, Diana and all, from Sharon in Texas. Well, hello, welcome. We're glad to have you. Okay. And if you do have questions that would be of interest to our whole audience, please just put them in the comments below, or like Sheila did here. Sheila, you may have to remind me of that. I think I'll remember it. But just in case you don't hear that answer in a couple of weeks, you come back and tell me. But you can email them, you can give me a phone call, whatever. Put them in the comments below. Any of those do work. The comments along here I don't always see once we're finished with the video. That's why I'm saying, Sheila, you may have to remind me. If you have private concerns or want information about your life privately, then please get a hold of me, give me a call, whatever, and we'll get you set up for a private session. Fees and all of that discussed on the website. All right, here we go. These are the questions that I thought were important enough to view them again this year. If Philip were currently living a human life, what advice would he give to his children to help guide them through the holidays? How might he explain God and spirit to them? How would he explain Christmas spirit to a child? How would he explain Santa when they stop believing? Okay, here we go. Let us begin by saying, yes, I, Philip, have lived life in human form, as have those who guide others. Excuse me, if you're hearing that squeaking, my chair tends to squeak. It's an old chair, but it's comfortable, so I apologize for the squeaking. Philip goes on to say, we understand human life because we have experienced it. And yes, I have lived as both a woman and a man and as a parent. My experiences have been in many times and countries. And for those of you who work with spirit or with Philip, and many people who have worked with me or know my work end up working with Philip, which I always find exciting and wonderful and interesting. And I met Philip. The life I work with Philip is in when he was a druid. And so you may have a totally different experience with him. So whomever your spirit guide is, you can work with Philip or someone else. But it is kind of fun to just know how you knew him back in human life. Philip goes on to say, now let us explain what God is and how to pass this information to a child. First, we must say that children are often aware of the truth of God, more so than adults. We suggest that adults allow the innocence of their child's mind to come forth. All is energy. We have often said this, as have your scientists. Imagine this energy forming, shall we say, as a ball, for the ease of understanding. So we're going to think of energy as just this ball. And it's not, but we're using that as an example to make it easier to understand what Philip's going to say. As more and more energy gathers as the ball, it begins to radiate what we call love or God. God is the pure energy of love. To illustrate this to a child, hug your child and or look deeply into the child's eyes. With your heart open, say, I love you. And I want to also say, when you are talking to a child or anyone and you want to say that deep, I love you, take the glasses off. I need them for reading at the distance here, but when you really want to say, I love you, take the glasses off. Put the child's hand in your hand while looking into the child's eyes. Press the hand to your heart and then to the child's heart. There are multiple ways of showing a child deep and powerful love. As you and your child connect, you can say that as big as your love is for the child, the great love, or what we call God, is even bigger because it is this great ball of loving energy that radiates on earth as humans and all other creatures. One of those sparks of energy shows himself as a man of giving to children all over the world. We call him Santa Claus. Sometimes a bit of energy falls away from the ball of love and loses its way. While lost, it does bad things, but when it finds its way back to love again, all is well. This is why it's so important for us to love one another, so we can keep the ball of love strong. That helps others be loving too. There are those who say God is this or that, and that you must follow this or that book. The truth is, God is love. That's it. God is love. Every time you aren't being, thinking, and acting love, you have fallen away from this ball of love, God. All you have to do is think a good thought, and that quickly you're hugged by love, by what we call God. Let's say someone calls you a bad name. They hurt you. That makes you mad. You can get angry and stomp your feet. You might even call them a name back. But how does that make you feel? Not very good. You can also walk away and say a prayer. You might say, okay, God, they need to feel your love, and so do I. Excuse me. It's hard for me being inside. The dust in the air starts getting to me from the furnace. So excuse me, I'm going to take a little sip. I've been talking too much. Thank you. Okay. Remember, you can walk away. You can also say a prayer, and we're talking to children here, but it's for the adult too. You might say, okay, God, they need to feel your love, and so do I. Then breathe and be sure to smile. Feel yourself being hugged by that big ball of love that we call God. You might even imagine that ball of love wearing a soft red suit. You might even see a few reindeer and little people standing near with big loving smiles adding to that hug of love. May you all have an absolutely loving, peaceful, and fun holiday. I was raised as a teenager. Um, as a child, I was raised in an evangelical church. I was kicked out of Sunday school at age 5 because I asked a question that I guess I shouldn't have been asking. At the time I asked, the question was, why do we have to talk to Jesus? Why can't we just talk directly to God? And I never saw God as this being high on a hill. I always saw God as just something unexplainable, something just there, but bigger than a being. Well, that didn't go over well in the church. But what was interesting is we lived in a predominantly Jewish neighborhood. And I grew up without a father. So I would go to my girlfriends' houses and talk to their fathers. I would love to have conversations about their beliefs. And I still believe, as I think all of you know, I'm not a religious person. I don't buy into any religion, but I do believe, I call God love. I call God spirit. And I do believe there is something greater than we as just humans. And I love this time of year because it really allows us to explore that and feel that. And whether we call that love Santa or God or spirit or universe, it's love. And that, my friend, is the truth of what this spiritual time is about. And it is quite a sacred time. But, I forget, dozens of holidays are celebrated during this time of the year for a reason. And it goes back to ancient times, even beyond ancient Greece. But in the Greek time, there was Dionysius, which was death and rebirth, and Celtic times, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to get into that, but I will tell you that the newsletter that I just sent out, that came out this morning, did name several of these different traditions. And my newsletter, by the way, is free. Go ahead and sign up for it. But what I want you to really get at this holiday season is, yes, it can be lonely for some people. It can be difficult for some people. But if we can tap into that feeling of love, not rushing around trying to buy presents, but that feeling of love for one another, that's what I want you to get. Whether it's Santa, God, universe, spirit, whatever we call love. My friends, I thank you. And I hope that your lives are filled with love this season and always. Till we meet again, thank you. I love you. And so does little Piper. You can see her back there. She's all curled up. See you soon.